would you? Thank you. My presentation slides are coming up. I'm Craig Burley, lawyer in sole practice here in Hamilton. Thank you for having me. Madam Deputy Mayor, Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm here to present on the environmental assessment itself, which is the item that ultimately will be voted on at the end of the day. So I wanted to speak to you regarding the merits of the environmental project report addendum. So this is an addendum to the environmental project report. That's a report that's sent to the Ministry of Environment to get Ministry of Environment approval for the project itself. That was done back in 2011. So as far back as 2011, this project was forwarded by Council affirmatively to the Ministry to request approval for the project, environmental approval. So the addendum assesses the project now in light of the changed scope of the project since 2011. There have been various changes to the project from Council, from Metrolinx, from the public, from staff in consultation with all of the above, and of course ongoing fine-tuning. The original assessment was extremely extensive. There was also extensive, in-depth, and citywide consultation with the public, with many, many hundreds of people coming out to discuss the environmental impact of LRT. And what's very noticeable is that despite extremely little council time to date spent on the EPR addendum itself, in all of the debates that have been had about it, the addendum actually addresses in specific detail many of the issues that have been raised or discussed by councillors as reasons to fear or doubt the project. For example, many specific traffic questions that have been raised are dealt specifically in section 4.5.2 in terms of the addendum. Issues at Aberdeen and Dundurn, issues especially at the King and Dundurn intersection, which we know is critical for transportation within the western half of the city and between downtown and the highway and destinations outside Hamilton. And of course, between destinations outside Hamilton and downtown, including this wonderful building. Issues regarding York Boulevard and so forth, specific remediation proposed for all of this, and yet we still hear questions addressed again and again from councillors asking, what are we doing about this? It's in this report that you are supposed to be considering today. The report also has a helpful reminder of the salutary environmental effects of LRT and of this particular project. That's at section 4.7. I suggest that people go back to it. There's another item talked about very frequently here in this room, around these tables, and in the media and elsewhere from councillors regarding transit integration. A transit integration with the 10-year strategy, by the way, a strategy that must be revived. We need to revive the 10-year transit strategy in order both to make this work and to make the city work and to make HSR work and to get people to work. And all of the planning even beyond, we're looking at planning here in the report addendum itself out to 2031 and 2041, right? And that's all dealt with at section 4.5.1. I urge you, right, that this is a good report. There is valuable information in here on designing the system, right, on the environmental benefits and challenges to building the best possible system, which is what so many of us insist that we are about. The ministry should receive this report. It's a good report. Section 3, and one thing regarding then sending the report to the ministry, which I urge you to do, send the addendum on. Keep the important, keep this important project moving. One thing about that, Section 3 and Recital E of the Memorandum of Agreement appear to require you to submit this amendment to the EPR under your own agreement. The parties agree in that MOA that the project will be varied, and they agree that that variance is to occur through Hamilton agreeing to facilitate an amendment to the EPR, of which this is, right, the forwarding of the report addendum to the ministry is critical. The ministry cannot proceed with the agreed project, the project to which you have specifically agreed, until this report is forwarded. Get it done, get it moving. As I had said in my last delegation to council, right? You're looking at $35 million a year taken out of the city's economy directly for every year that we delay. We're looking at $3 million a month for every month that you delay. Send the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burley. Mr. Green, Councillor Green.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Mayor. Through you to the presenter, fantastic illustration. I do appreciate that you've taken the time to go through this EA with a fine-tooth comb. Just for the purpose of healthy debate and understanding, what concerns do you see through the EA specifically that might be addressed through the addendum?
I think one thing is, right, you need to have the addendum because the scope of the project has changed so much, and we've learned so much more about the project in the 6 years since the last since the last provincial approval was received. So this has to happen because the specific environmental impact, and it does detail, right, in depth the impact along the proposed line. So all the way back in 2011, right, this was the line, and the environmental assessment, the project report deals with the specific section of line. That work has now all been done. But because there have been changes to various parts of it, as we've learned more and know more, right, the addendum needs to be sent in order to address that. So what I see in the report is a great deal of thought and care that's been put in by the team in order to deal with further remediation and fine-tuning that remediation as well. Issues particularly of traffic, right, which are so important to people and so important to the environmental impact. Right? Reducing traffic congestion is a key environmental factor. That's been dealt with, for example, very extensively. But even something down to, the endangered butternut trees. Right? We've now been able to go through, tag the individual ones, and as the project changes, for example, we now have the storage and maintenance facility, right? That all needs to be not redone, but it needs to be looked at to make sure that the approval matches what we are doing. That's the focus of the addendum. It's looking at environmental remediation to make the project as best as it can be.
Thank you so much for that, and what I got from your presentation is that much of what we've heard as concerns that have been put forward very rightly by members of council and the community are addressed in the EA, so adequately put. Is there somewhere that, have you submitted this presentation that we can have it in writing?
This one? I did send it, but I only sent it earlier this morning, so I don't believe you'll have it in your agendas. But I think I've made it available at any rate, and I'm always willing to make it further available. Craig at craigburley.com, the email.
Sure.
Flip it. If you need a copy of this, let me know.
I would like to ask that if you could, when you have time, maybe just fire that over to me.
Yeah, I sent it to Stephanie this morning, but I'll make sure that I get it to the people who need it.
Thank you so much, Craig. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Partridge.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Craig, for all the work that you've done on this. It is very much appreciated, regardless of where we are on the side of the issue.
Thanks, Councillor.
We do require, it's very helpful to have residents come in and speak to us. I'd like to ask Madam Clerk to please circulate that presentation to all councillors when it is appropriate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Craig. And next is Anna Davey. Thank you.